This is Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. We're here on Xbox Series X. Be sure to like the video. Subscribing is great as well. So this is the latest entry in the Yakuza franchise. I would say that while this naming convention does kind of make it sound as though this is a bit of a spin-off, this is very much a continuation to the events of the last mainline Yakuza game. I guess Yakuza 6, I believe, I would say, because then there is that other Yakuza game with like different characters, and I would say that this is basically a continuation of, Kaido-san's story. And I say that wrong every time almost, or different every time. It is what it is. So what are we getting here? It's a 4K resolution, but, they always do 1440p for these games, and it kind of looks like that is the continued element here. We do get 60 FPS. Does seem to be smooth. Yeah, it does actually seem to be very fluid and smooth. The city continues to look great, but I mean, it's, kind of the same cities and locations in, like, the Yakuza games. They, like, reuse the spaces. They always like change them and add new buildings, and they do incredibly new, dynamic, lengthy stories, but like, typically the spaces that you visit and take in are the same across each of the different entries. And they do add new locations, but it's very much, retreading the same spaces and just kind of adding a little bit more life to them. Which actually works out most of the time because you get familiar with the spaces, you care about them, and you just get these lengthy tales that use completely new locations within them, which is cool. There is a first-person mode if you click in the left stick, which is kind of cool if you want to play it first-person, or at least adventure around in first-person, which is kind of neat for like looking into the small details. One of the things I really love about this game, and this franchise in general, is if you go into like a store, there are a ton of like really detailed elements to them, which is pretty cool. So the game itself is a pretty lengthy story. I guess I should also mention that there is like local multiplayer type stuff, if that makes sense. Like you have like mini games you can do for 2, and there is a console keyboard and mouse support, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, okay. I think that about covers the technical elements of this experience. So basically, story-wise, this is really interesting to me because, I kind of figured the narrative with this character was kind of concluded. He's in a new place where he has, erased his name, and it's leaning into that. And it's kind of cool because, obviously I really do care about this character. I think a lot of people do, because you just, him. Right? Like, there's several Yakuza games where he's the main... This is what I talk about for food and stuff. Isn't that crazy? They're all like this, too. It's like a wild... Look how in-depth everything is. This is where you can, like, buy your upgrades and stuff like that. But I digress. It's an interesting experience because you've got this character that you know so well, and I was kind of like, oh, the last one was kind of a good finish, if that makes sense. Like, it was a good finish to this character. And now we're continuing the story, and it looks like there's going to be another one afterwards that kind of goes a little bit further beyond this. Not spoiling this at all. I mean, we've already seen the trailers for, like, was it Yakuza Infinite Wealth or something like that? And I mean, that's going to do story stuff again, because I don't want to, spoil anything for you that are diving into this for the, the first time, right? Like, this is an experience that you should do fresh. Do I have any keys? I don't know if I have any keys. Those are like special bonus things. But yeah, you get these like large-scale kind of open-world cities that you explore, these places, and there's usually bunches of like enemies and stuff that you go around. And the game is very heavily story-focused. Like, you are doing, narrative-driven things. There's tons of weird, quirky side activities, side missions, and stuff like that. Like, it's a full world. Tons of enemies to fight and smash and bash. I would say difficulty-wise, I think you can do normal pretty comfortably on this one. That may sound weird, but the Yakuza franchise is one of the rare games where I say, I think for the most optimal experience, playing it on like easy difficulty. is the best way to enjoy these games, where they don't become too, like, kind of grindy for fighting people, like too button mashy and too crazy. Because I do enjoy the narrative quite a bit, and I find, like, especially on, like, what is it, the Kiwami 102, or, like, pretty... Some of the Yakuza games are, like, pretty grueling for, like, difficulty, but this one, at least, yeah, from what I've kind of seen and worked through, it doesn't come across as too bad in regards to, like, difficulty type stuff. So I do think normal's actually a very comfortable sort of setup here. So this could be technically a good entry point into the series if you're kind of wanting to start from this one for some reason. But I do highly recommend going from the beginning with the prequel they added later, hilariously. But yeah, the Yakuza 0, and then working like 1 through 6, and then I guess the other one would be technically 7. And just like experiencing these games, because they're all so wonderfully well done. And I think a lot of them actually do stand up and hold up pretty well. Stand up for Yakuza! But, you know, they do actually really have great longevity to them. We're gonna get to the point where we're sort of like, I would imagine, I don't know if remaking would be the right thing, but like, I do ponder if we're gonna get to a point where we're seeing these ones redone again, because the Kwamis were like remade versions to kind of get those games up to modern standards. And, you know, we do get these pretty steadily, these games, which I think is awesome. I love to be able to do the mini games like golfing and stuff. Like, I love playing these games. They're a lot of fun. They really are. They're long, expansive stories. Like, they're usually at least like 20 hours of intensive narrative. I mean, it also depends on, like, how long you spend playing the games, too. You can get more out of them. Oh, they have Sonic the Fighter, so that's cool. I always have fun picking, yeah. They always have these cool Sega arcades. Sega! Blasted. I love that they Sonic the Fighters, that's kind of funny. And they got, like, the claw machines. Always love to showcase that. But, yeah, it's a game that really, it's what you get out of it. And that's where I'm like, oh, you know, like 20 hours and stuff like that is kind of like a baseline, because you can literally sit there and do ridiculous side activities and missions to kind of your heart's content. You know, like there's wacky, weird stuff. Like some of them you do like RC car side missions that go like on, and there's just like there's huge. Like, you can do all kinds of silly stuff. And if you like this franchise, I highly recommend the Judgment series. It's really, really good. It's like the same universe, but you're like a detective. Well, you're like a disgraced lawyer that like becomes a detective, and those games are so phenomenal. They really genuinely are amazing. I know I'm like getting sidetracked, but like literally if this is a game where you're kind of like, oh, I like this, Judgment is just absolutely spectacular. But these games, you know, they are great themselves. And I guess we should continue diving into the experience here. Like I said, heavily story focused, lots of cinematic cutscenes. I mean, I'm basically just brawling and showing off the game and talking about it so that you get an idea of it, because I don't really want to spoil too much. We'll probably do like a little bit of a mission so you can kind of see that stuff in action. But like, yeah, a lot of the game is like doing brawling stuff. Like you've got different fighting styles too. You know, like the spider thing here was like, whoop, and you can like wrap people around and stuff, and you know, you can like pick up different environmental things too if you want to. You do these crazy executions, and then you buy like XP and stuff. Like, I don't know, that makes weird sense, but you get skill points and stuff. Well, I think that oversimplifies it. You use currency and stuff that you earn and collect, and then you're able to buy upgrades like more health, more attack power, stuff like that, extra special moves and things that allow you to fight guys more effectively. And there's crazy bosses, and it's got that ridiculous, like, every part of the trademark of the series is alive and well here. And playing this, I just like continue to remember just how like fun and great of a franchise this is. This really is. I don't know if it's like, I would not probably call it like underrated, but I think it's not super common still. Like, I mean, there's been several entries, so they do really well. They're, you know, people play them, lots of people play them. But it's just like, I still think on some platforms and in general knowledge of gaming. Like, the Yakuza franchise is still, like, not as well known as it should be, because these games are, like, incredible and dripping with drama and twists and turns and ridiculousness, and they're zany and they're hilarious and they feel lively, like these cities. You know, there's so many like people and stuff going through them, and there's so many like weird, like beat of life stories going on. It's a great series, and you could run like a cabaret club, like it's a whole side thing going on here. Like this point in the game here is like a couple hours in or something, like this save point. So, you know, it's kind of like done with the opening, and it teaches the beginning elements, the tutorial stuff, and you know, it lets you get to know the characters and the world, and like, yeah. Anyways, we're just gonna skip through this. The Ami Alliance, but yeah, you're basically you're in this new world. You know, time has gone and passed. Our character continues to be an old man, but he continues to like look young and fight with the best of them, if that makes sense. Like it's they keep telling me for like several games how he's this old guy and he's just like still looks basically the same. Like I think his fighting style and like it does feel like he's aged a bit, but yeah, they definitely don't show it. They definitely do not show that at all for this character, which is kind of funny. He's still just as tough of a brawler, and they all talk about the legend of the dragon and all that. He's super cool. He really is. But this one is like really intense. I was kind of sitting there, I'm like, this is cinema, because it's like opening. And that's why I kind of turned off background music in this situation, because this game's got like a lot of kind of like licensed tracks too, which is interesting. I think that's like a little bit of a change for this one, because it's got like a intense movie-like opening, where it's sort of like, you know, he's sitting there drinking, having a meal, and like some music's playing, and it's like the sad story of his life where he is now, and I'm like, oh my god. It's like, this is a pretty grueling and intense for this character. I was like, oh wow. I do ponder if some people may get slightly tired of the like setup area, if that makes sense, because we should talk about like the locations, but you know, I do think this one heavily leans on pre-existing locations. You get some new places, like there's this really cool like dock sequence that kind of like pops up at the beginning, you know, that's just kind of a stage setup, and you know, like they do new things with each entry, but you know, focusing or reusing the locations and stuff and like just adding to them, I think allows them to focus more on the story part, which is the main aspect of what these games really deliver, is on narrative, if that makes sense. And it's like you do some problem solving and discovery stuff, but most of the game is like you know where you're going. It's a lot of cinematics, it's a lot of cutscenes, but they've done a really good job of modernizing the series too. Like, I know with the Kiwami games, remaking those, getting those ready for that time, which was, well, I think several years ago at this point, I believe. And I know modernizing it then, that was for that time. The time has also passed even further past that. And now we're kind of at the point where it's sort of like, you know, they're continuing to excel at kind of doing like new cool touch-ups and improvements and whatnot. It's an interesting concept, honestly. Ugh. They do an intensive job of this experience, this is what I'm saying. And I guess this is like a pretty good mission to kind of showcase things, because you're I don't think you're gonna get too spoiled on this kind of stuff. But yeah, you just get to like unleash on enemies, and it's like a huge brawling game. Like, that's if you're not familiar with what you know, the Yakuza franchise is. And this one, yeah, literally doesn't have Yakuza in the title, but I mean, that's, you know, what it is. Like a dragon, right? But yeah, you use a combination of different melee abilities and weapons and tools and your health. They're basically like health potions you're drinking, which is kind of funny. They just kind of modernize them and have fun with them and stuff. And this game's got like so many different types of food, because you can like eat to heal and get like bonuses. And they've even got like Mountain Dew in this, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, you just get like this array of differing like skills and abilities and tools to like eliminate your foes and take them out, which is pretty cool. And oh, that's not a good thing. I gotta run away from that. Oh, get up. Get up, Kazuma Kiryu. Anyways, doesn't matter. I don't think I'm gonna be able to... There we go, now we got this guy. Yeah, the execution type things are pretty cool. You strike fear into your foes, and you're just beating up a lot of guys. I think they're like really tough. And the narrative itself is like really like mature, which is great, if that makes sense. Like it's... I love the element of like how intensive the storyline is. It's not like ridiculous in the sense that you might be like, oh, it's super adult and stuff, but like, you know, like dialogue, the themes, thematically, they have like fun and laughs at a lot of stuff, but it is very much a mature story, a mature case of this character. You know, basically, you would say through his life being this individual, and if you play all of them, you get probably the most complete... You get quite a collection. Yeah, you get the most complete story, I think, of a gaming type character, if that makes sense, because you just get to see so much of his journey over several games, right? It's really, really quite amazing, and I love that. I think he's called like Joru now, is like the new name he's got. And it's like, you know, they don't fool... Doesn't seem to fool anyone. Like, everybody that, like, knows who he is or is supposed to know who he is immediately like, come on, dude, like, who you trying to fool, right? And it's kind of funny. Yeah, so she's teaching us new missions. They're constantly giving you new, like, side things that you can do and enjoy and stuff. Yeah, anyways, we're not here for the story, we're here to talk about this, and then we can talk about, like, building up our legacy network anyways with the homeless individuals and stuff, and... Yeah, gotta raise the network level, and it just teaches you some of the side activities that you can take part in and stuff, and you know, like little mini quests and stuff. Stamina light, unbelievable. Who wants to do this sort of thing? Those damn smartphones. But this is all just like network related quest things you could do. His ball got stuck in a tree, which means we switch to this ability. And we, like, grab it. Oh, do we only have to switch abilities? We just use the watch? Okay, that's fine. He's got, like, a fancy watch. It's a big thing. See, now we got some network points. We're saving the city one step at a time. Although I really should actually take a potion so that I'm, like, a little bit healed. Anyways, the idea is it's an expansive new Yakuza offering. It's got the same heart and style that you're used to. There's pure reasons for what he's doing and why he's doing what he's doing. And of course there's a complex, mysterious plot of discovery and turns and twists and like, you know, what's gonna happen next and like why do people keep trying to bring him out. You know, every time he's gone they keep bringing him back in, and it's like, you know, you never seem to be able to leave the Yakuza life, if that makes sense. At least this character seems to be perpetually stuck in this never-ending situation of conflict and trauma and crazy moments. It's quite something, it really is. These side missions are hilariously bad. Ugh. How did he even get that up there? How? How is that even possible that he got that up there? Great way to earn money, though, if I want to get some, like, you know, skills upgrade and stuff, but how did he get that ball up there? That's so, like, weird and kind of funny. But I think you'll probably really like this series. If for whatever reason you are jumping in and this is your first one and you're like, I don't want to do all the other stuff, I think you kind of get enough... Like, they all sort of act as, like, standalone narratives to a degree. Like, they all combine and... You know, there's things that happened in the past, but they do a good enough job with, like, flashbacks and setups to be like, here's where we came from, here's where things are headed, and it makes sense. So I think you could technically, you know, jump in on this one, and I don't I don't think it would be too difficult for you to enjoy and see what this game franchise has to offer, but I always recommend playing the whole series because these Yakuza games are just absolute gems and well worth your time.